There is a particular prophet of Allah who the Quran gives a huge amount of attention to. Not only do we know about his adult years as a prophet, but we even know about him as a child. We even know about the events that led up to his birth. We know about his mother. We know about his brother. We know about his sister. We know about his father-in-law. We know about his wife. We even know the very dowry, the mahr that he paid. And he's mentioned around 183 times in the Quran, and this is not in vain. Mentioned across over 25 passages. This is none other than the Prophet of Allah, Musa alayhi salam. And there are three descriptions that Allah Almighty gives to Prophet of Allah, Musa alayhi salam, that were not given to any other prophet in the Quran. The first of them, Allah said about him, وَأَلْقَيْتُ عَلَيْكَ مَحَبَّةً مِّنِّي. I have cast the garment of love over you. Meaning everyone who saw him loved him, according to one of the two interpretations. The second unique description given to Musa alayhi salam is where Allah said to him, وَلِتُصْنَعَ عَلَىٰ عَيْنِي, so that you will be nurtured under my eye. Allah will be Musa alayhi salam will be nurtured under the eye of Allah. And the third unique description given to this Nabiyul Kareem is where Allah said about him, وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي, I have prepared you for myself. Allah says, I have chosen you for myself, O Musa. What type of human being will a person become when he is chosen and prepared by Allah for Allah? The outcome is Prophet Musa alayhi salam. A man who his essence and his ambitions and his yearnings were all for Allah, by Allah and towards Allah. No part of Musa was for the world of this dunya. Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah, he said in the tafsir of this ayah, وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي, I have prepared you for myself. He said, if a human being wants to prepare another human being whom he loves, he wants to raise him, he wants to prepare him, nurture him, foster him to reach levels of perfection, this person will use all of their resources and all of their efforts to help them reach that level. He said, therefore, what do you think Allah, Al-Qawi, Al-Aziz, what will He do for a person when He wants to nurture them and raise them to the levels of perfection and ihsan? وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي, I have prepared you for myself. When did Musa alayhi salam hear these words? He heard these words from Allah during one of the loneliest periods in his life, where him and his wife were pushed to their physical limits, traveling the earth by themselves, basic, simple rizq, just enough to keep them alive. Lost for direction, they see a glimmer of light. Musa alayhi salam says to his wife, Umkuthu, stay here. Inni anastu nara, I see a light, I see a fire. لعلي آتيكم منها بقبس أو أجد على النار هدى. Perhaps I'll bring you a torch from it, or I'll find some kind of guidance at that fire, at that light. Unbeknown to Musa, however, when he was making his way to this fire, to this light, he was actually being called by Allah to stand in the sacred valley of Tuwa, to speak to Malikul Muluk, the King of Kings, the owner of sovereignty and dominion, Allah. He stands. Imagine this scene. He hears the voice of Ar-Rahman saying to him, Ya Musa, oh Musa, Innani ana Allah. It is me, Allah. Pause. All of a sudden, Musa alayhi salam is about to receive closure. He receives the answers that he needed all throughout his life. He had suffered. And up to this moment, he had no idea why. Why me? Why am I suffering? He was born as a male child under the law of the Pharaoh of Egypt, where every male baby was worthy of execution according to them. He was separated from his mother at the age of suckling. His sister would walk the bank and say, I know someone who can suckle this child, and he would be briefly returned to his mother. And then Musa alayhi salam would become a man. and he would accidentally kill someone. And now he is a fugitive, he's on the run, wanted by the authorities, dead or alive. And then he would find a wife to marry, and the mahr, the dowry, is 10 years of arduous labor. Why all of this suffering? Why? He needed answers. And so as he stares into the evening night sky, looking above him, hearing the glorious voice of Ar-Rahman, answers are finally given to him. What does Musa alayhi salam hear? One of the most beautiful passages in the Quran documenting this. Listen, Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, قَالَ قَدْ أُوتِيتَ سُؤْلَكَ يَا مُوسَى O Musa, we have responded to your request. وَلَقَدْ مَنَنَّا عَلَيْكَ مَرَّةً أُخْرَى And we have conferred favor upon you yet again. إِذْ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّكَ مَا يُوحَىٰ When we sent inspiration to your mother. أَنِقْذِفِيهِ فِي التَّابُوتِ Saying to your mom, place the baby in the cart. Place baby Musa in the cart. فَقْذِفِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ Throw the cart in the river. فَلْيُلْقِهِ الْيَمُّ بِالسَّاحِلِ Then the river will take him to the shore. يَأْخُذْهُ عَدُوٌّ لِّي وَعَدُوٌّ لَهُ Where an enemy of his and an enemy of mine will take him. وَأَلْقَيْتُ عَلَيْكَ مَحَبَّةً مِّنِّي And I have cast the garment of love over you. وَلِتُصْنَعَ عَلَىٰ عَيْنِي So that you can be nurtured under my eye. إِذْ تَمْشِي أُخْتُكَ فَتَقُولُ هَلْ أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَىٰ مَنْ يَكْفُلُهُ Remember when your sister followed you and she said, I know who can suckle this baby. فَرَجَعْنَاكَ إِلَىٰ أُمِّكَ So we returned you to your mother. كَيْ تَقَرَّ عَيْنُهَا وَلَا تَحْزَنْ So that she can feel at rest in her eye will not tear. وَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا فَنَجَّيْنَاكَ مِنَ الْغَمِّ And remember Musa, when you killed someone and we saved you from distress. وَفَتَنَّاكَ فُتُونًا And we tested you with severe tests. فَلَبِثْتَ سِنِينَ فِي أَهْلِ مَدْيَنَ Then you Musa, you spent many years with the people of Madian. ثُمَّ جِئْتَ عَلَىٰ قَدَرِي يَا مُوسَى Then you have come to this place at the decreed time. And then Allah says, وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي I have chosen you for myself. I have prepared you for myself. So now he understood all of the suffering in his life was not in vain. It wasn't in waste. It was a preparation for this moment to become a prophet of Allah, and his heart finally settles. Now as a Muslim, when you hear this story and you have read it before, ask yourself the question, how can I be a person like Musa, whom Allah chooses to be for himself? How do I be a chosen person like Musa alayhi salam? I would love to be this person. You would love to be that person whom Allah guides and nurtures and helps against his enemies and gives him answers and gives him security on Yawmul Qiyamah and enters him into Jannah. How can I be this person chosen by Allah to be for Allah? I share with you 5 signs. Signs that your suffering as a Muslim, as a university student, as a whatever, it's not going to waste. And your sacrifice will be thanked by Allah. 5 signs, and we take them from the biography of Musa alayhi salam. Sign number 1. Everyone in this room, when I mention a sign, measure yourself against it. Am I a person who does this or not? Sign number 1. You have an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. When Musa alayhi salam came to learn of a man who was more knowledgeable than him in some things, he said, لا أبرح I'm not going to stop traveling حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين until I reach the junction of the 2 seas. أو أمضي حقبة Even if I have to travel for an eternity, I will find this knowledge. I will go and find him. And so when he came to his mentor, this person who was less than him in status, he wasn't a prophet, he said, هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا He said, look at the adab. Do you mind if I accompany you? Do you mind if I follow you so you can teach me some of what Allah has taught you? This is sign number one to measure yourself against. Are you a man? Are you a woman chosen by Allah? Tell me about your thirst for knowledge. Do you come to all the halaqas possible? Here Musa a.s. he'll travel years to get some knowledge. You have a halaqah perhaps at university, perhaps close to you. Do you make the effort to go to that halaqah? Do you make the exception? Do you have an active relationship with the Quran? When the Imam is giving a khatira, a short message after the salah, are you someone who leaves in a hurry? Or do you sit and listen because of your adab and respect for the knowledge? Ask yourselves these questions and you will begin to realize whether you really have a quench for knowledge or not. When Allah wants good for a person, يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ, He gives them understanding of the religion. Sign number two, you have a strong commitment to ibadah, worship in all of its forms. The very first words Musa alayhi salam heard from Allah was, فَاعْبُدْنِي, worship me. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي, and establish the prayer for my remembrance. What type of abid, what type of worshipper are you? Become an exemplary worshipper of Allah. When people are eating and drinking in excess, you hold yourself back or you're fasting. When people are sleeping at night, you are awake. When they're snoozing past Fajr, you are awake. When people are gossiping and scrolling through their socials, you are busy in the remembrance of Allah. You are in the masjid, you're involved in the MSA, you pray your salah in jama'ah, ya ikhwan. That's sign number two. You are a worshipper in times of ease and in times of hardship, in times of happiness and sadness, trial, tribulation, whatever it is. Your motto in life is salah, Quran, qiyam and dhikr. A sign that Allah has chosen you to be for Him. Sign number three, you have a fearless ability to acknowledge your personal error. You have a fearless ability to acknowledge your personal error. There are certain mistakes that all of us have made in our past. We should have fixed it 10 years ago. Certain people we should have apologized to 15 years ago. Musa alayhi salam was not that man. When he made a mistake, he was quick to say astaghfirullah. This is from shaitan, and he would ask Allah for forgiveness and he would make the changes right away. When he saw two men fighting, yaqatatilan, and he underestimated his own strength and he pushed the Egyptian man and he died, he didn't say he deserves it. He's a rebel. He's on Fir'aun's team anyway. He's always fighting, always getting up to no good. What did he say? He said, هَذَا مِنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ, this is from the works of shaitan. إِنَّهُ عَدُوٌ مُضِلٌّ مُبِينٌ, he is an enemy openly leading people astray. Then he said, قَالَ رَبِّ إِنِّي ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي فَاغْفِرْ لِي, oh Allah, I have wronged myself, so forgive me. فَغَفَرَ لَهُ, so Allah forgave him. إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ, he is the forgiving and merciful. This is sign number three to measure yourself against. How do you feel when someone advises you? Are you now thinking as a knee-jerk reaction, how can I advise him back? I'm going to give him a taste of his own medicine. How do you feel when you hear a khutbah like this, advising you, this is halal, this is haram, do this, don't do this. This dress is an obligation, this dress is permissible, this income is halal, this relationship is haram. How do you feel? Is it another khutbah where you're looking left and right, looking at the ceiling? Is it another khutbah where you're on your phone? Is it another khutbah that goes in one ear and out the next into that long archive of thousands of khutbah we have heard? Or do you find yourself acknowledging the mistake, accepting and making the changes immediately right after the khutbah? If that is the case, abshir, good news. That is sign number three in your life that Allah has chosen you to be for Himself. Sign number four, and before I say sign number four, I would request that all the brothers please come forward. You have your brothers in the back. They're having to sit on the table, subhanAllah. So please make space for them. Jazakumullahu khairan. Sign number four, you have an unbreakable ethic of sabr, patience. Before he left Egypt and after, Musa alayhi salam suffered at every level. Yet he was only ever seen as patient. In fact, his sabr was so great that our Prophet ﷺ would use Musa as an example when things became tough for him. He would say, Yarhamullah Musa, may Allah have mercy on Musa. He suffered more than this. He went through more hardship than me. Patience with the commandments of Allah first and foremost. Waking up for Fajr, staying up until Isha, guarding your Salah, stopping on the side of the road if you need to pray, doing what you need to do. Are you patient in this? Patience with the prohibitions of Allah, avoiding haram even when everyone else is doing it. Dressing appropriately even when everyone else isn't. Avoiding haram relationships even though it seems everyone is doing it. Saying no to certain invitations because you know there will be disobedience and music and free mixing. Saying no. And finally, patience with the qadr, the decree of Allah. When something happens, a family member passes away, you get sick, someone steals or harms you, even if you stub your toe, are you patient? You say, Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. This is sign number 4 to measure yourself against. And sign number 5, before I sit down, your 5th sign to measure whether you are being chosen and prepared by Allah for Allah is that you have a desire to be of service to others. Musa alayhi salam, he sees 2 people fighting. He has to involve himself. He wants to fix the situation. He sees 2 women. They can't push and shove with men. So what does he do? He takes the bucket. He gets the water for them. He helps them out. And he walks away. Even when he was studying under his teacher, Khidr, and he saw things he didn't like, he had to say something. Why are you doing this? Musa was a man of ihsan, excellence, wanting to serve. It wasn't just about his ambitions and his career and his mere reflection. Allah says, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى. When Musa reached his full age of maturity and he became a man, آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. We gave him knowledge and wisdom and knowledge. Why? Why did he get wisdom and knowledge? وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. That is how we reward the people of ihsan, the people who are in service of others. These are 5 signs to measure yourself against, to see whether you are for Allah, by Allah, and towards Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Today we talked about the story of Musa alayhi salam, and we derived 5 lessons, 5 points that explain why Musa was chosen for that honorable task by Allah. Number 1, we mentioned a thirst for knowledge. Number 2, a commitment to ibadah. Number 3, an ability to say, I was wrong, an ability to acknowledge your personal error. Number 4, an ethic of sabr, patience, you're not quick to snap. And number 5, you have a longing to be of khidmah, service to others. Now before I end, I want to mention a hadith from At-Tirmidhi, hadithun Hasan. Muawiyah narrated the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّكُمْ تُتِمُّونَ سَبْعِينَ أُمَّةً أَنْتُمْ خَيْرُهَا وَأَكْرَمُهَا عَلَى اللَّهِ. I need all of your full attention right now. Ponder on this. You, O Muslims, he said, are the last of 70 nations Allah has created. Yet, in the eyes of Allah, you are the greatest and most honorable. Let's address the elephant in the room. When you hear narrations like this that say, we're the best ummah, it speaks about our virtues, you can't help but say, how do we understand the battered nature of the ummah today? The ummah that is being beaten black and blue wherever you look. Bombs, explosions, whatever it is. You see nothing but bruises, cuts, hemorrhage. Palestine, Lebanon, you guys know. You've seen it on your social media. You've seen it on the news. Open air prisons, Al-Aqsa. Where is this favored nation? How are we the favored nation of Allah? Yet, wherever you look, you just see carnage and pain and suffering. For those who ask how and why, the response is the same as what Musa received from his Lord when he wondered, why am I suffering? What was he told? He was told, وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي. I am preparing you for myself. Listen, the same way the suffering of Musa alayhi salam was not because Allah hated him or because Allah had abandoned him. It was because he was being prepared to lead Bani Israel out of Egypt. We have to see our pains as any pains of the ummah in the same light. Allah hasn't hated us. He hasn't abandoned us. مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. These are preparatory events that will allow the Muslims to take center stage and lead humanity. And the process of preparing Musa for leadership is the same process that you and I will have to go through. Why do you think his name was repeated 183 times in the Quran? Hikmah, wisdom. Separated from his mother, separated from the people he loved. But Musa was reunited with the people he loved. And sooner or later, we will be reunited with the people we love. And the last comment I'll make, the waves of the river Nile that bashed into his cart when he was just a baby, those waves are no different than the waves that bash the Muslim Ummah today. But the shore of the river Nile was near for Musa alayhi salam. And Allah has promised that our shore is just as near as Allah says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُحَادُّونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. Those who oppose Allah and His Messenger, listen, أُولَٰئِكَ فِي الْأَذَلِّينَ. They will be debased. They will be humiliated. كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَأَغْلِبَنَّ أَنَا وَرُسُلِي. Allah has already decreed that Allah and the messengers are going to be victorious. They will be on top. إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. Allah is mighty and wise. And so we ask Allah for understanding. We ask Him to liberate the Muslim Ummah. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. وَلَقَدْ مَنَنَّا عَلَيْكَ مَرَّةً أُخْرَى إِذْ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّكَ مَا يُوحَىٰ أَنِ اقْذِفِيهِ فِي التَّابُوتِ فَاقْذِفِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ فَلْيُلْقِهِ الْيَمُّ بِالسَّاحِلِ يَأْخُذْهُ عَدُوٌّ لِّي وَعَدُوٌّ لَّهُ وَأَلْقَيْتُ عَلَيْكَ مَحَبَّةً مِّنِّي وَلِتُصْنَعَ عَلَىٰ عَيْنِي إِذْ تَمْشِي أُخْتُكَ فَتَقُولُ هَلْ أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَىٰ مَن يَكْفُلُهُ فَرَجَعْنَاكَ إِلَىٰ أُمِّكَ كَيْ تَقَرَّ عَيْنُهَا وَلَا تَحْزَنَ وَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا فَنَجَّيْنَاكَ مِنَ الْغَمِّ وَفَتَنَّاكَ فُتُونًا فَلَبِثْتَ سِنِينَ فِي أَهْلِ مَدْيَنَ ثُمَّ جِئْتَ عَلَىٰ قَدَرِي يَا مُوسَىٰ وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي اذْهَبْ أَنْتَ وَأَخُوكَ بِآيَاتِي وَلَا تَنِيَا فِي ذِكْرِي اذْهَبَا إِلَىٰ فِرْعَوْنَ إِنَّهُ طَغَىٰ فَقُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَىٰ. الله أكبر.